Anybody else want to make a public comment?
Recording. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. It's 6:30 on November 9th, 2022. This is the regular meeting of the Wood Creek City Council, and I'm calling it to order. And at this time, I'm going to ask everybody to rise for a moment of silence and remain. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag and pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. You can call the roll.
Mayor Jim Roscoe,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Here. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Here.
Councilmember Deborah Hines. Here. Councilmember Joe Gutarva.
Here.
Councilmember Brent Foley.
Here. And we just proceed. We have public comment on number 5. We'll get to that. We did have one public comment sent in by Lindsay Hasty with the Pepper Falls Event Center. It says, "Hi, Mayor Resco and Councilmember Hines. I will be open with you guys during our committee cooperation and collaboration. However, I would like to submit a public statement for tonight's meeting that is more from a personal standpoint rather than a collaborative approach, which I would express during our meetings regarding the hot tax in the future. This is more for people who are in attendance of your meeting rather than the council. It's titled, 'To Err is Human, to Learn from One's Mistake is Divine.' Once again, we find ourselves at the hot crossroads. Just like last time, the free money, quote, advocates are driving us to consider a hotel occupancy tax on pot. The content devoid political buzz is mounting to a crescendo tonight. Oh, if Wimberley reenacted their pot, we should too. We can use the money to fund our roads and other comprehensive plan priorities. It's a tax on overnight guests that doesn't hurt the lodging operators. Every Texas city has one. The ordinance is already on the books, so let's just raise the rate to 7%. What can be simpler? One city council vote and we are collecting money. But unlike last time, we know, or they should know better. Pot is a state-regulated tax. By law, any use of pot must first and foremost promote overnight tourism that comes from 51 or more miles away. No, we can't use pot to improve our roads, build sidewalks, fund our parks, or fund our comprehensive plan priorities. So why are we doing this exercise again? Who is asking for pot? Do we really think a community of roughly 600 households, where more than 65% of the citizens are age 65 or older, is interested in the noise, traffic, pollution, waterway use, and consumption that characterize tourism, the only approved legal use for hot? Of course they are not. Just ask them. Do you see any lodging operator raising their hand and saying, tax me because I know, no, city council can do a better job of bringing overnight tourism than I can? Of course not. If the citizens of our great town and the mom and pop operators that own our lodging businesses aren't asking for more tourism, then who is the elected city official, city council representing when they are promoting a pot? What problem is pot really solving given its restricted use? Please, let's not repeat the same mistake we made with pot 1.0. It was a decisive tax that upset our citizens and our lodging operators with absolutely no benefit. Let's keep the genie in the bottle and learn from our past Moving on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to, accept the consent agenda or.
Mayor, I'd like to pull up items 2 through 4 for discussion.
All right. So we'll go from,
I move that we approve 1 without discussion.
okay. All right, so, so we'll vote on moving 2, 3, and 4 out, or is that required?
You can just decide.
Yeah, I don't think anything such is required, but so, okay, so we'll move 2, 3, and 4, out of the consent agenda and we'll take a vote on passage of item number 1.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines. Aye. Councilmember Joe Scarver.
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley.
All right. Okay, so we'll discuss 2, 3, and 4 as part of the regular agenda. I will mention, by the way, while we have you, that item number 7, we're going to withdraw from the agenda as Ms. Gunn is not available here. So item number 2, what were your concerns, Councilmember Hines?
Item 2, if you all would like to follow me to page 6 in the packet. So on the minute is page 2. At the very bottom, item 6, the second paragraph starts with discussion. The wording here is a bit concerning to me. It says discussion that according to statute, the bond is actually a 40-year bond. In the ordinance, it cites that the 20 years was listed as a guide and would depend on interest rates. There's a little bit of this statement that is missing that needs to be added. And I discussed this briefly with Mayor Resco to kind of confirm my understanding, but what he said in the meeting and the accurate statement would be GO bonds can go up to 40 years. And the interest rates are not the only thing determining them, it's also determined by the life of the asset. And in this case, it would not go much over 20 years. So, you know, just minor details, but it's the implication of them and what it states is a pretty significant change. So we're not looking at a 40-year bond, it's just GO bonds have that possibility, and Mayor Roscoe explained that in the meeting.
Can you make that edit on me?
I move that we edit page 2,
Perfect.
yeah, item 6, paragraph 2 of the October 12th meeting minutes to state the bond is actually a 20 to 40-year bond. The 20 years is listed as a guide and would depend on interest rates and life of the asset.
Further discussion? Call the roll now, please.
Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines. Aye. Councilmember Joe Scarver.
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Aye.
Trustee Jones, they will make that edit in just a minute and take it back.
So the second item, Mayor, if I may, is on page 3 of that same minute. Item, so that's page 7 of your agenda packet tonight. And we're going to be looking at the item 7. Sorry,
I remember page.
item 8. I was off the page. I wrote page 8 instead of item 8. Because item, what did I do here? No, sorry, item 9. Page 8 of your packet. It's a correction on the motion. An amendment motion was made by Councilmember Grummer to have the list of RFQ sent to Councilmember Foley. I reviewed the meeting minutes today, and the motion was actually to have it sent directly to the tree board. And then Romer clarified that Councilmember Foley would receive the list as part of that process. Again, seems nitpicky, but why this one was important to me is, kind of, these liaison roles are new for us. And the liaison is to facilitate communication. It's not the sole method of communication. And so as we kind of navigate these roles, aside from the accuracy of the minutes, that's important, but I just thought that clarification was.
What do you like to suggest?
So I would like to move that the amended motion was made by Councilmember Garber, have a list of RFQ suggestions and questions mentioned by Councilmember Hines to be sent to the tree board and shared with Councilmember Foley.
Any discussion? Use those times to call the roll.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Turban.
Aye.
Councilmember Brent Foley.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Aye. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Is that all of those minutes?
Yes. I move that we approve the minutes with those suggested edits.
We'll give that one to Councilmember Tarpon. Second.
Councilmember Joe Turban.
Aye.
Councilmember Brent Foley.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Aye. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Aye.
That's unanimously, that's the amended and placed into the, on the website.
Mayor Finley.
Yes, please.
So on the next one, we're looking at the expenses, the final items for the year. I'm going to primarily be working in the September one since that's the last of the year. I pulled both in case we jump back and forth. At one point, I do reference both. So the first item I want to draw your attention to is 6,000.26. This is the page number. So on the September financials, it is page number 21 on the September financials, 21 in the packet.
21.
You're looking at item 6,000.26, elected body litigation expenses. This concerned me because when we last looked at them, they were about 3,000, a little over 3,000 in July. And then they jumped in August to 8,000. That's that reference to the August financials. And I'm rounding here. And then in September, they jumped up to 10,000. I don't know if Bud's on yet, but I was wondering if anybody could clarify what those expenses were for. I did have him work on one small thing for me, but it was no more than 30 minutes.
They did work on some stuff, on various things. There also was a period of time where, his invoices got like stuck in the mail. And so they all hit at once. So there were some big jumps in there that were actually like, 2 or 3 months worth of invoices. I can get back into it quickly. But I did remember, that I was like, wow, that's a big invoice, but then it turned out to be like 3 months.
Yeah, I just kind of confused him because he was in the last meeting where I directly referenced those fees only being $3,000, not a key. And so to see them jump up to 10,000 was just a little bit, especially because I'm not aware of a direct use of them beyond the chapter 30 edit, which we needed his assistance for. I don't know if I'm directly working on another item for us, and perhaps I've just forgotten. So some clarification on that would be good.
He's good about supplying, documentation and invoices and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's not here on the call, right? But
You make his name. You don't need his mic. That's
you see his face?
no.
Well, while we're working on that, I was gonna talk about that for a second. So, I asked Mayor Roscoe about the legal reimbursement fees because I noticed that, and I was concerned about this item because it's the end of the year. So we billed for things that we should be reimbursed for, but we don't have those reimbursements yet. So I wanted clarification on how important that was, and so it's just kind of like, they just stay pending and we should see them roll over in this year. The next one, I had questions about where the project, so this is, 8,930. Gonna be page 22. I wanted clarification to what that expenditure was, the 20,000 there. And Mayor Roscoe explained that that was, the comp plan
Oh,
for the fiscal year, the finalization of it, which I don't remember how much I'll spend for this, but it sounds like that blended pretty well.
It was a little higher than I wanted it.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I just wanted to highlight that we did end the, year with an unspent balance of 100, over, 100,000, which is good. We didn't make all the purchases. We didn't, we underspent a lot of categories, but the elected body piece was the primary concern for me.
Yeah, I'll run that now.
I just,
Or I'll make, Mr. Rule do it.
it's just hard to manage it if it kind of sneaks up on us all at the end like that, and we don't.
Yeah, it's always fun year end because, a lot of things come rolling in, and they all hit the bank at once. That's why when we were, speaking about that and going through the finances, month by month, I was saying, okay, but we still got 2 months to go, we still got a month to go. We just don't want any unpleasant surprises, but we had a pretty good idea what the cash flow was.
And on those legal fees, we only spent 80% of the budget. We only tapped into about 10,000 of that transfer from, litigation into general. So that's good. I mean, in theory, I don't know, flood. All right, well.
I guess if worst came to worst, he could call and I could put it on speaker.
We've done that before for
So
Brandon.
if my phone rings, it might be.
he hasn't raised his name.
So, all right. Any other questions? But
And then, but I'm used to the time.
hello. Right, I've got you on speakerphone going into the Zoom, so.
Okay, good. So what question can I answer? I heard there was something about a fire.
There's a question on fees for elected official, legal work. That went up from like 3,000 to 8,000 to 10,000 in a couple of months, and I explained that my recollection was that there were a few of your invoices that had gotten, hung up in payment. And so they all hit at once, which would explain large jumps on the activity statement.
Yeah, there is. So what month are we?
August and September.
Yeah, it's the end of the year, August and September.
The August 2022 invoice was 4,500. That was for the entire month of August. The July invoice was 1,800. was 2,600, and the May invoice was 90. So we had a few months there. I was going back over those invoices where there was a delay in getting payment made, and it is looking back at what resulted in a larger amount.
So the question is, what were the services for
Yeah,
the,
in a nutshell, what were the services you were providing to the elected official or officials? What was the main thing you were working on, that's correct?
August, there was a council meeting. There was a telephone call with the mayor and me next. Couple of those. There was another council meeting. Call, with the mayor, work on a replat issue.
Mayor Van?
Oh, that, yeah, let's.
Okay, so to me, it sounds like there's a little bit of a concern around how things are being billed. That line item is supposed to be essentially for only elected body when we call you individually. So like a prime
Okay,
example.
that's probably not, but it's probably a coding.
Yeah, so we just need to fix that because that was the point of having that item added, was so that we could track our personal expenditures. Like, for example, when I asked for your input on the Board of Adjustment, you know, there was, the council directed you to spend an additional 30 minutes on that item, reviewing it more directly in relation to state code, and then I directly emailed you about it. So that would have been like a billable hour from me. So we just need to clean up that coding to make sure we're not billing for the general legal of like attending a council meeting, attending a PNC meeting, that.
That research has not been done yet, so coded it. Whatever I would do and authorize to do on that issue that you brought up, that hasn't been addressed yet.
So we're fine. I mean, basically, we need to make sure that our coding, you know, that we're consistent in our coding. So if it's a council meeting, you know, it's not going to be coded as elected body. So we just need to adjust that as we code these out. But that was all last year.
I see the point because you have a category.
Your mic, you gotta use the mic.
I see the point because when you budget the category, when you come back and assess where you've been, and then also when you come back later in the year to prepare the next budget, if you don't have the right expenses in the right category, you're not gonna budget right. So you need to clean it up.
Right.
I understand.
Also, we can't regulate our own expenditures if everything's being assigned, you know, it looks like we had a lot of personal phone calls with this one.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think the point is made. Thank you. All right, I'm hanging up. Yeah.
Leave me on, otherwise, I can't.
We'll see how long. I'll send you the bill for the data.
Yeah, I move that we approve the minutes and just get the coding adjusted moving forward.
Wait a second. Second by Councilmember Brummer.
You're approving the financial.
Sorry, financial statement, thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Councilmember Brett Foley,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura Brun,
I,
Councilmember Chris Grummer,
All right.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Strummer.
All right, so the financial reports have been passed. We'll work on the coding, and move on to the number 5. I'm very pleased to have a special guest with us. Tonight, we'll start with Mr. Craig Blanchett, who's the president of Aqua Texas. He's been visiting the valley today and has been speaking to a number of the citizens and the leadership team at Wimberley and a couple of our POAs, and it's been a very productive day. And yes, thanks to Seth.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mayor and council members for having me this evening. And Mayor, thank you for arranging all the appointments today and folks I got a chance to meet. It was a very productive day, and I appreciate everyone's time, spending a little bit of time with me. So my name is Craig Blanchett. I'm the new president for Aqua Texas. I've only been in Texas for about 8 months, but I'm not new to Aqua or the water industry. I worked for Aqua for 14 years, and I worked in the industry for about 25 years. So I'm excited to be here. One of the things I tell all my team members, and I brought with me to Texas is operational excellence, customer satisfaction, environmental compliance, my top priorities all the time, right? And today, in visiting with all the folks I met with, you know, the other thing I know that's important to everyone is sustainability and conservation, you know, ensuring that we protect our natural resource. And so that's my commitment to you, is working very closely with you, the city, and ensure that happens on Aqua's end, right? Anything we can do to help, we're happy to work towards that. I come from the Midwest. You know, I left the Midwest. For Aqua just won J.D. Power's Associates Award for Best Customer Satisfaction. So I don't know if it's because of something I did or because I left. I don't know which one it really is. We'll find out, I guess, right? But I'm proud of that, and I want to bring that same sense of pride in our operations here in Texas too, right? So I'm looking forward to work with all of you on that initiative. I left a little packet with you. There's a few things in there. I'm gonna go through everything in there, but you can kind of take a look at it. There's a little bit about me in there, a little bit about Aqua Texas. There's some information in there about assistance available for customers that may need assistance with bill paying. I encourage you to take a look at that. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and I have to answer them. Government, federal funded water payment assistance. It isn't widely known about, but there's hundreds of millions of dollars out there to help customers who are having a challenged time, not just for Aqua customers, but customers of all water utilities. So even if you don't have someone locally that has a challenge and you know somebody somewhere else, please share the information with them, no matter who it is. They can work with a local action agency to get assistance. Okay? And they're spread throughout the state, a lot of them throughout the state. On the other side of the packet is some information about projects we're doing. Met today with folks from Cypress Creek and talk about a sewer main project we're doing. We're replacing about 7,000 feet of sewer force main for about $900,000 that hopefully kicked off by the end of the year. I committed today that I'm going to push our engineers to get it done, get it started, and get going by the end of the year. So I'll be in their office tomorrow morning. And then there's some other efforts that we're working on. Some that are not necessarily in Wood Creek, but some areas that impact Wood Creek. For instance, we're going to be replacing about 32,000 feet of water main in Wood Creek North. And that is intended to reduce lost water. And water is precious here. And so, you know, no matter where you live in the region, it impacts you if there's lost water. So our goal is to get water loss down in our water systems and preserve that natural resource. We're also working on plans to build a type 1 wastewater plant. So our wastewater plant is reaching the end of its useful life. And so we need to do some renovations to it. So we're going to build a new wastewater treatment plant that has the ability to produce type 1 wastewater, which is a type 1 wastewater you could use for things like irrigation, fire protection. You can use it for a lot more things than you can use the water we have today. And so we think that's important too, because the more water that we can reuse, of course, the less water we have to take out of the ground, again, preserve our natural resource. And the last thing that's in there, you know, we're working to try to find innovative ways and ways, and working with David to try to find ways where we can get our water pumping out of the Jacobs Well management zone, right? We have wells there today, and we'd like nothing more than to be able to move those resources outside of the Jacobs Well management zone so they can all come here next year and see people swimming and doing the fun stuff they always want to do. So that's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort to do that. We're committed, absolutely committed to trying to help make that happen. So the mayor took me through the town today, and I got a chance to get a flavor for things and how like this here. And I'm envious of the folks that live here. Maybe I will live here. We want to be a contributor to that and enhance that. And that's our goal. So, is there any questions for me? Or is there anything maybe I'm missing? Mary, you listened to me say several things today. Is there anything that I'm missing I should have brought up?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate how much I'll say Aqua in general has made an effort to reach out and you know, sort of solidify this partnership. We're in this together. And it's been gratifying to see that, that backing up what you say that you're going to do. We're very glad to see the progress.
I also congratulate Kevin. I was a city manager myself before I came to Aqua. And so I know what it's like working with utility companies on the city side, right? And so it helps me a little bit in doing my job today. So I appreciate the comments, and we'll continue to work hard to try to gain everyone's confidence.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So you mentioned that customer service is one of your highlights and priorities for us. I know that our citizens have consistently complained about when we have issues, when we call in to Aquatex, we get out-of-state people who sometimes don't know about a weather event or things going on in our area. Is there any plans to change that for our customers here in this area? Will a call center be made here closer, or do you have a plan for that in place yet? Is this the first time you're hearing about it?
No, actually, my office, when I worked in the Midwest, was actually just down the street from the call center. So I don't think it's not as much about where the call center is, it's about how much information we feed them, right? So they can give you good responses when they call, right? And your point that we have is a great one, right? Like, I want communications done with our customers, both from Aqua Texas and to our call center, that reflect what the questions people want answered within their community, right? We do a really great job of sending out getting mass information that might be important to the masses, but we want to try to get information that's important to you and your community, right? Important information about billing, important information about conservation, all those type of things. And so I think regardless of where the call center sits, it comes back to us, making sure that we're giving them good information to be able to provide you good information when you call. And so that's my commitment to you, is to ensure that happens here in Texas.
He was very quick to hand out his business card to everybody he talked to.
Yeah.
His phone number is floating around there pretty good.
Yeah, and I can say this, like I said, it was like half a mile down the street or a block down the street. It's just down the street from us was the call center. And a lot of good people there, and if you give them the right tools to do their job, they can do a good job, right? And but if you don't, when I was in the Midwest, sometimes you didn't give them information. It doesn't matter how close they were to you. If they didn't have information, they didn't have information, right? So that's something that we have the commitment to do better at. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Just a quick question here, amplified what Council Member Hines said, that it was kind of frustrating during the big freeze that you called, I guess, Pennsylvania, and they barely knew who we were, and we couldn't really get any information. So I appreciate the fact that you're going to help us with that. So if something does happen, then we will be able to get information, be able to pass it on to folks in the community. So I thank you for that. Just a question, the sewer line replacement from the golf course, what is your timeline on that? We met with folks up there the other day, and it was the first thing they asked us was, when is it scheduled to?
Yeah, so it's out to bid now. So it's out to bid, and my hope is that we'll get construction started by the end of the year. If it's not by the end of the year, it'll be the first of next year before it gets started. But that is out to bid now. It's already been designed, and it should start moving forward as soon as we can get bids back and get it awarded properly, contracts and that type of thing.
Yeah, they were there this afternoon, and Danny came out this afternoon and met with Craig. And I think they've got those questions answered to their satisfaction. And they were under the impression that it was going to be like a 2-year timeline, and it's not.
No, it won't be that long. And to your point about someone to talk to, everybody's got my business card in there. I like being accessible. I'm only one person, but I mean, I like being accessible. So if there's something that comes up with the city, I encourage you to call me and let me know what's going on. Because the only way we get better is by hearing feedback, and then I can help address things too.
Mayor, I'm going to continue and follow up on their customer service. It's literally in our compound, the amount of comments, they have an open section asking the citizens, give us feedback. The amount of comments when it came to Aqua Texas were all about the customer service. Some of the examples they just said. And some of the ideas that we've had previously was, can we get a specific person who knows our area as our customer service representative? As an idea, that's just,
Yeah.
You can consider that. But that was something that advanced around, like, and we've asked citizens and they go, yes, we want that. We want somebody that we can always go to, like, all power goes out, all the water goes out. We can all call this person and they know what's happening and they can get things done.
Yeah,
So that was just an idea I would want to share with you. The other thing that is actually a question, I'm very excited to hear about moving to type 1. Do we have a projection date?
yeah, so the plant will be done by the end of 2024. And then we have some more work that's going to carry into 2025 with the lagoon, the storage lagoon, and we will have a plant capable of producing type 1 by the end of 2024.
So once it comes out, what we're saying is type 1 is coming out of the plant, but it's still a land application. Are we using the existing ponds?
Right now, we're continuing to use the existing land application, but what we're going to be looking for is some support maybe from the community to help us find out how can we work together, create a master plan where perhaps others can take it from us and use it for good in the community, right? Like,
So we can turn it into.
correct, exactly, yeah. That's exactly right. So that's still got to be worked on. That's the part that, we just don't really have the answer for it. 'Cause we're, as a regular utility, we don't have authority to go purple pipe and charge for that type of service. But we could partner with a group that wanted to master plan and take our wastewater effluent for use as type 1 similar. Certainly could do that.
And that's really exciting from a council person's point of view, in that when we start looking at our code, we can have this ideas of, oh, this is actually possible. We can start, seeing the possibility. So thank you.
And I will tell you that in conversations with Commissioner Shaw and the Riverlake team, they have ideas for use of that water too, and purple piping, especially in new development. So.
Yeah, I think the other piece to that is we talked a lot about a master plan, so that if a development comes, some kind of development, whatever it might be, right? It could be a commercial lot or it could be a residential subdivision. If we've got that built into our master plan and what we want to see, we can work with the community to say, we want you to put purple pipe in. And our plan says, and the city's plan says, you got to do purple pipe, and we can make that happen by working together. But that's something we'd like to see happen as well.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I do want to mention of customer service. And I have been involved in this development of the city's vision plans and in the city's comprehensive plan, beginning with Vision 2020, 2030, 2040. And every single one of those, which began in 2000, which began about 13 years ago, the first one, the issues with utilities are always very negative towards the public. And we have had these conversations, which have been 13 years, and there's the need for improvement. There's some things, I understand the difficulty of managing call centers. We have call centers for emergency services in Texas. But dedicating 1 or 2 people doesn't work, but it's the scripts. They don't seem to be prepared. I have called them, and it's absolutely, I have called them for myself, as well as the test that citizens have told me, and you can get completely different. Sometimes they don't even know what city of Wood Creek is. You say, city of Wood Creek, oh, Wood Creek phase 1, Wood Creek phase 2. We've been an incorporated city since 1984, and you have been a provider. It needs to be education and training your customer service representatives that from much perspective and experience is not there. The other thing that I have a concern is when we had emergencies and we had, water was shut off in the middle of the summer, and we have we have a population that is changing, demographics are changing, we're getting more younger families, but still, we have a large percentage of the population is over the age 59. We have a lot of single residents who are older. And this is something that we deal with other franchise agreements, where we ask, it is your responsibility to know where those customers are who are going to need as part of as a public utility, you're bound by the American with Disabilities Act. If where those customers are that are going to need access, that we need to check on them. We did very well, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, in taking care of our people and distributing water. But you have to improve. This is a population where there is a special need that's not being addressed. So please, I ask you to take care of that.
Okay, thank you for those comments. It sounds like I will be exploring the opportunity more of a dedicated resource. And I will do that. And certainly I understand your points on accessibility, and we'll look at that as well. Thank you.
And I want to finish by saying that your local groups, they are very good. And I feel bad for them. I have known them for years. They have always provided good service. They have always been professional. And I feel bad for them because sometimes the customer frustration feels upon them. And it's not fair if they do a good job. So please take care of it.
Right, I will.
I just sent our comp plan and the survey results to you, the email, so you can see that survey now and see exactly what they've been saying about the Aqua Taxi service.
Yeah.
And so it's better than we could provide tonight because it was a full-scale citywide survey. And then I also linked our comp plan. I know you mentioned the master plan.
Mhm.
You're probably familiar with it, what a comprehensive plan is.
Yep.
We're also working on our subdivision codes, so you made some good points tonight that we're gonna be incorporating. So we have that.
Yeah, we discussed that a little bit this afternoon, that it's been discussed at the city level, as part of our subdivision. All right, well,
Thank you so much.
thank you, Mr. Blanchett.
Yep, appreciate it.
Do we have a public comment? Here, Rebecca?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is David Baker. I'm the Executive Director of the Watershed Association. It's good to be here tonight. I appreciate Craig coming. We've had a couple of meetings in person, September 7th, Jeff and Lon Shell and Scott Foltz, the Environmental Compliance Director, all met. And we kind of worked through, a list of issues. I've been working on these water issues for about 25 years here, and was in contested cases with Aqua back in the 90s, and before they were Aqua Texas, and in the 2000s about sewer discharge. But the big issue that we're really facing is the development of Wood Creek North. Every drop of water that's pumped out of the aquifer, it basically is water that's not going to flow out of Jacobs Well or Cypress Creek. And we've seen the well this summer this is about the fourth time in history it's been completely dry for about 35 days now. We've never seen that happen. So in our discussions with Craig and Colleen, who's president of Aqua America, they made some commitments, and you heard some of those tonight. And one of the big ones is moving those wells out of that Wood Creek North area, ideally below the Tom Creek Fault. Aqua has completed some new wells right across 2325, but we have to do some more analysis. One of the other things that's going to be really important for the long-term viability of that creek, but also we don't want to disrupt other water supplies. So we got to work together on those aquifer tests. I think the other big thing is the type 1, as Chris, you noted. That's a big deal because that'll make that effluent on the golf course much higher quality, not smell so bad. But the opportunity to reuse that water is really, really a great commitment. I think the other thing we talked about is aquifer storage and recovery, looking at a study that we could do where we can store water in the Lower Trinity over these drought times. That's something that the county and the watershed want to invest in and work with Aqua on that as well. And you guys have mentioned the need for that customer service support and that backup power. And those are all things that Craig and Aqua is committed to. I think also, I'll be honest, when we approach them, we've been working on this really diligently the last 2 years, looking at how do we buy out Aqua and make that a public utility? Because we haven't gotten any satisfaction from, the past leadership there to deal with these problems. And, that was met with a pretty stern, no, we don't want to sell, but we'll work with you on these issues. I still hold that out as, controlling that water for our benefit, for the benefit of the community is really where we want to get. But if we can work with Aqua, with these CapEx, but also analyze how that's going to affect rates long-term, because that's a really important thing for your constituents. That's something Craig said we can do, is look at these capital improvements and understand how that might transfer into rates later. I think the ideas will create a memorandum of agreement that not only, all these parties that have interest in water, we can come to alignment around both the CapEx, the operations, this customer service, and then we talked about them joining the Cypress Creek Watershed Protection Plan Executive Committee and investing in that protection, which is really our only way to govern, I'd say watershed-wise. And I think that's it. I'm just really pleased that Craig is here, taking the time to visit with you all, and that we're going to get to visit next week about some of these technical issues with these new wells that they drilled, and also the golf course in Wood Creek North, how that's going to be managed long term, potentially trails and another place for irrigation. So I just want to let y'all know we're pleased, we're working together. We're here, the watershed's here to work with the city. We really excited you're stepping in here, Kevin, and look forward to getting to meet with you. But I know I've taken more than my 30 seconds. So thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you again, Craig. You don't have to hang around. Anyway, thank you so much. And thank you for your comments. Next on the agenda, it is really a distinct pleasure for me personally to introduce Kevin Rule. Kevin, as of December 1st, will be our city manager for the city of Wood Creek. He has extensive experience in municipal government, most definitely on the finance side, which is why there's a joke about him. But anyway, went through an extensive interview process. Kevin ranks very highly, and we were able to negotiate what we think is a good and fair deal for the city. He does want to move his family into the area and sort of as soon as possible. We're going to help him do that. So we're, I don't know if you want to say a few words. You're welcome to.
Just want to say, I just want to thank council for the last month and a half, and we went through all the interview process. I think it was good for both of us. I'm looking forward to moving up here and starting December 1st. And my door is always open. And so I'm always available. Customer service is a high priority. And so whatever I can do, just let me know. But that's it. December 1st will be my first day. So I look forward to meeting everyone and getting familiar with the area.
I do want to, I just got one friend. I'm not regretting that I am really council. I regret that I'm being at the time. I sent you a quick note, even though I am not on council. I have been here a long time. I live about 2 minutes from City Hall. If there's anything I can do to help you and your family, do not hesitate to let me know. I look forward to a very successful relationship, and those who are here, you're highly qualified. I think that I wish you the best, and I think that you're doing good things.
She means it too. She will be over there.
Hey.
Anyway, so thank you, Kevin, for for accepting our offer. We didn't want to go through another day that, it was great. So anyway, we got that, got all the paper signed, getting it set up in the payroll system and everything else. And it is officially thorough. Well, and I told him he could leave because it's a long way back to Leon Valley. He said, no, he wants to stick around and see how this goes. So he's been watching on video and other meetings, so he's been really well connected and doing his homework, and it certainly paid off. All right, so with that, I'm going to move to item number 8, and this is the discussing appropriate action on the selection review. This one for the American Rescue Plan grant, Councilman Burns.
I'm going to create an ad hoc selection review group to review applications of the American.
Second by Councilmember Hines, and this is just like what we did with the community development block grant, same process.
Absolutely, and so for reference, for the selection review work group for the community development block grant, we had myself, Elizabeth Bauer, Suzanne McKenzie, Joseph Guitarba, and John Brasco reviewing the applications. I haven't reached out to Elizabeth yet, but the rest of y'all are here. But pressure on you to be willing to, again, go through that process. We receive the applications, we get the form, review them based on the forms. But this item in particular is about establishing it. It's actually one of the processes of the grant. We actually officially establish this review.
I have a question, if I may.
Oh, please, go ahead.
I love that you're considering the same group again. I hope they all sign back on. I felt like that really worked. My question though is how is this related to number 11? And maybe I'm just not understanding things, and I'm gonna kind of project what I think is going on. Is on number 11, it's talking about K3s doing engineering assessments of this one area, and I don't mean to jump forward. So are they just providing the assessment, and then this group would be looking at applications for engineering services for the scope of the work?
That's actually a good question. So this ad hoc committee is for the next year's application. We haven't applied to this. It's future thinking, where this one, the one that Mayor Pro Tem put on, is for money we've already received. So it's the same grant, just a different year of it.
Oh, so we can apply for another round of like $500,000 for capital improvement? I was unaware of that. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If I may explain, the issues that are being dealt on item 11 come from the Coronavirus Relief Act of 2021. And at that time, funds were distributed. And cities, smaller cities like Wood Creek were non-eligible. Rural cities, smaller cities were not eligible. The Treasury had money left over. And then they did what they call non-eligible units. Cities like Leon Valley passed that. We do. Those cities, through the Texas Division of Emergency Management, received the funds that were unspent. And those funds were based on population. Your award was based on population. We did not apply. It was pretty much filtered through the Texas Division of Emergency Management. It is the Coronavirus Relief Act portion of the American Relief Act. Those funds are very specifically, they have 4 categories, and one of the categories is drainage, water, and sewer. Those funds have to be spent. We have the funds already in our reserves, and they have to be spent, and they are completely, in fact, we're already reporting to them. We already have a form and report on this. What is coming on item A is for future grants. There are multiple opportunities to the U.S. Department of Transportation, TxDOT, on and on. There are multiple opportunities. And for those opportunities, you have to have an administrator and engineering services to help.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because this is titled the exact same thing, so it's just, I didn't realize there's another round available, so that's awesome.
And if I may add,
It is the same act, but different section of the act. The one that we have for drainage is under the code mileage related portion of the act. And it has 4 categories, and so that's it.
What are these ones?
so this particular one, this is Grantworks coming to us again and presenting this idea. This one that they're applying for is everything she explained, and then this, they still had money left over, and they realized, oh, we're gonna open up the qualifications, we're gonna open up the ability to where you can spend it even bigger. So listen, do it again. So, you know, apply again, because you've already got that one, and that one's very specific at that time. The new one is less specific.
Okay.
So
It's up there.
it's all there.
Wanted clarification.
No, that's great. That's great, because it also helps those at home listening.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, second, and, there's no further discussion, vote.
But I want to verify, do we want to, because we are creating the committee?
If you have a gap, I'm willing to volunteer to help.
I will ask Elizabeth if she wishes, and then if she doesn't, I will reach out to you.
Yeah, we're not approving the committee, that's
Correct, you're just
Just
creating,
the creating the committee, so.
but it's kind of,
We trust you to put the right thing together.
thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora Lebrun. Aye. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe DeTarvin.
Aye.
Councilmember Brent Williams.
Right.
All right, 5 ayes, no nays, that's unanimously. Moving on to item number 9, discuss and take appropriate action on contacting Double J Ranch Golf Club about Oakville containment and abatement on the course property.
I move that we consider authorizing Mayor Roscoe and staff to begin negotiations for a plan to address Oakville on the Double J Ranch Golf Club property, with any final amount of funds to be spent and a final plan to be submitted to council. Right?
Seconded by Councilmember Tarver.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
So the spread of Oakville on and around the golf course has been rampant and well documented for years. Citizens have consistently raised concerns and asked the city for help. At this point, it has cost residents tens of thousands of dollars, and that's a conservative estimate, in tree work alone, and double or triple that in reductions of home values as trees have been lost. Concerning the use of city funds on private property, I share this concern. And in the past, I have been wary of taxpayer dollars being used to help a private commercial entity. However, the city has retained the authority to act on Oakville on private property since prior to 2019, and by best estimate, by 2015 at least. The process being for that authority to go in, to remove trees, and bill the private property owner after a lengthy effort to notify them and have them act on their own. Oakville does not recognize property lines and poses a great liability and even hazard to life and property as trees decline and fail. Recently, council instituted an Oakville assistance program to help private property owners. I believe that the city holds the authority, duty, and responsibility to address Oakville in partnership with the largest landholder in Wood Creek. That's why I'm asking council to support this effort, authorize the mayor and staff to act and enter into negotiations with the new golf course owner. My questions today would be to council, would we like to set some terms beyond just getting the ball rolling, like an amount of years that this plan can cover, an amount of funds they could max out at? I'm happy to assist with this, mayor and staff, if y'all would like help. I believe you're fully competent, but I understand sometimes the project is big and, you know, people are very busy, especially that.
Mayor, may I?
Go ahead.
I have a question. When you're speaking to the amount of years, is it because you feel that the project itself will take so long? Or is it just something like we can stay on top of it as like a maintenance plan?
But I estimate the amount of work needed to conservatively last at least a year to 2 years. And that's not saying somebody's there working every single day, but that is in consideration with the budget possibility of the golf course and ourselves. It would likely last 5 years. And then there's also the concern of, oak wilt can spread under the ground. That's how it's primarily spreading in Wood Creek. We don't have a ton of red oak. We do have some. So you can think that you've removed it all, only to see it spring up very close by because it had already infected the roots of that tree. So not only is this process going to take a while because of funds availability, actually man hours to actually do the work, hire the company, do the bid, the negotiation process, but also I anticipate there will be several cycles of work needed. And then there's, I'm not saying the city should be aesthetically responsible for what the golf course looks like afterwards, but I believe that people should be aware that there's going to be a period of time where the golf course is also dealing with their stumps and the aftermath of landscaping issues. I've been out personally surveying large chunks of land now for the past couple weeks. And that's another citizen complaint is that the trees, once cut down, are left ugly and ragged. The land becomes hard to mow then. Sometimes the logs and branches are left laying around. So it's just, to prepare people, I think 2 years would be probably the project goal. How much the money the city wants to put to it, I think council should have the final say, like I said. Maybe it could be like a full match, depending on what they're willing to do, or a 25% match. I think that would be up to y'all to negotiate. But if council had like a ballpark consideration now of what we want to do, the one caution I'd like to make is that our Oakville assistance program, I really want to be made available to our residents themselves. And so I would like for council to consider allocating general funds to this, like creating an actual line item for it for at least 2 years of dealing with helping on that end.
The last point in particular, I very much support because I don't want to take the citizens pool of which we've already agreed and shared with them that, hey, this is, I think we're setting this up for you, and then take it and put it to one very big fund. So I would love to be able to.
Yeah, we budgeted $50,000 for a book containment down from 50. And so I would like to set 15,000 earmarked for individual residents. But, and we also have, contingency fund that we set as part of the budgeting process. If we are going to make an event, I do think it's going to take a couple of years. It may take a couple of years just for the budget cycle alone. So it's a lot of work, but I will agree to go and meet with the golf course. I'd like to include Mr. Rule.
Could I actually add a qualifier in the way of, I would like for us, how long do you feel like you would need?
To talk to them?
Yeah, and kind of give us a sense of where we might be at.
Oh, I can have a conversation with them in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And say, in principle, this is what we'd like to do. And then here's sort of the plan. And then the plan would be to start by running around and seeing what the priorities are.
Would you feel comfortable with January? If we're getting past the holidays?
Yeah, I think that's great, as far as just like a report back on progress. The reason why I'm presenting this now, aside from the citizen pressures, which we've been getting for a long time, is that because he's a new owner and because he's likely starting to make some big plans for property improvements, this is a great time to swoop in and make sure that this is on that priority list. And that, in this initial expenditure of funds to improve the property, that hopefully he can allocate a portion for the work on.
Would this maintenance apply to land that's owned by the golf course, but not on the golf course per se? I keep hearing about cases in terms of like an ordinance on the easement on the south side of Wood Creek, between us and UTJ, belongs to them, and there's trees there too.
Right, I would say that would kind of be up to the mayor and staff to start to set those parameters. I think dividing the city into quadrants focusing on hotbed areas first that Texas A&M Forestry has already identified for us, they put in that work. I would say properties that are directly bordering citizens first. Also, it is good to note that the golf course does not own all the lots owned by Wimberley Springs Partners and some of the easements included in that. So this negotiation step is not directly with Wimberley Springs at this time. It's actually just with the Double J properties. We could consider something else at a later date with Wimberley Springs, but I just thought that the golf course, the new owners, this would be a good, solid place to start for the city to start eradicating oak wilt in a serious manner, because we can stop this. We can get out in front of it, but we have to stop ignoring it.
But it is an issue for those of us who live on close to the golf course. I mean, I recently spent over almost between $6,000 and $7,000 on my trees, including taking preventive measures for oaks. Unfortunate that I have a lot of elms, more of them. And the person that did the work pointed to me a tree across that's by the car path, so probably 5 feet from my property line. And he asked me, do you want to treat it? He said, it's not mine. It's on the golf course. And he explained what he did. Well, we know that there's a root issue, and it's very close to your property. So it's placing properties at risk on the golf course. My question is, and I don't know how the negotiations went on this one, but throughout the city of the Creek, there are green belts that are owned at the property and golf course, and some of those have oaks, and some of those are in pretty bad.
Yeah, my understanding, the golf course was purchased separately from the Wimberley Springs partner lots. The lots, all those green spaces, that are not golf holes, essentially are Wimberley Springs partner and not the. So that's not to say that we can't, work with them too. And, Jason Donaldson is really sort of covering both sides of it right now. He's still working with the golf course, but still representing Wimberley Springs.
I would like to ask that the golf course employees are not the people performing the work, or we need arborists, oak wilt specialist diagnosing. We need arborists conducting the work for the most part. I'm concerned about if the staff, we should not be paying their staff to deal with it. That makes sense. If he wants to volunteer the staff hours and cover that, and they go in and they deal with the final removal, and my goal with this statement is the idea that not being put off. Or, staff has other tasks ahead of time, and we actually bring in professionals to tackle these projects. You know what I mean? And share costs on the professionals tackling the project, then they are more likely to be done to standard. They are more likely to be completed, start to finish, all the brush removed, because that has been a citizen complaint about a tree being chopped down.
Okay, I'd like to leave that on the table, please, because that could be a very strong part of the negotiations, whether they can pay their own labor rather than paying, to do the job supervised, to do the actual.
I'm going to just reference the ordinance itself. So our city ordinance, when it comes to oak wilt, is they are required to have an arborist.
Right, I didn't say that there wouldn't be.
The work itself, I'm just kind of.
I just said, an oak wilt specialist arborist does not have to be necessarily wielding the axe. And if we can, this is going to be a very, very expensive proposition. Both for the city, if we go along with this, even in the best negotiation, and for the golf course.
I just want to have the arborist doing all the inspections so that they can go, well, that tree is still good, don't touch that.
Right, no, that's a given, that's a new word.
They need to be supervised by an arborist, because they can done damage to some of the trees and golf course.
I'm not implying anything against the staff. saying is, when you have people who have 10 jobs, which they do, and we need them to focus on one job, that's the one concern I have.
Well, that's part of developing a plan or timeline with the property owner, get it done. So that just let's let that be part of the negotiation, is how it's gonna get done, as long as it's within the framework of the ordinance.
Point of personal information. Dan, could you read the motion back?
The next consider taking, direct action to address the issue of Oakville and start a partnership between the golf course owners.
Okay, so what I wrote down, just to confirm, you were the one who made the motion. I wrote down, let's direct the mayor and staff to begin negotiations and then all that. Was I correct in that, when I wrote that down?
That's what was said.
Okay. And then a formal motion amendment wasn't made, that you asked to include the city manager?
Well, he is staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the full motion was that council authorizes and asks Mayor Roscoe to begin negotiations for a plan to address Oakville on the Double J Ranch Golf Course properties with any final amounts of funds to be spent and the plan to be shared with council prior to moving forward with the full motion.
I'm gonna include the, amend the motion to get a report at the next January council.
A second.
I don't really see a problem with that.
No, I just,
No, I'm just saying, that we can vote, I mean, if there's a, vote on the amendment. Okay.
Councilmember Chris Grummer,
aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe DeSarva,
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura LeBrun.
Aye.
All right, the amendment passes, we'll vote on the amendment.
Mayor Pro Tem Laura LeBrun. Aye. Oh. Councilmember Chris Grummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe DeSarva,
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley,
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays, it passes unanimously. Move on to item number 10, discuss and take appropriate action on the social media policy. This is the second draft. Councilmember
Yes,
Brown.
sir. I recommend that council pass the social media policy as written in the packet.
That's seconded by Mayor Pro Tem LeBrun. Councilmember Brown.
I don't really have much to introduce because we've already been through it. This is the second draft, and I did not receive further edits or suggestions from any council members. I did correct the city of Fullerton, I believe, the place I was. But if there's anything else,
Mayor, I would like to amend that I send my list of small typos to city staff and then adopt with those edits.
So you're asking to send your
My list of
list
four
of
items,
errata
rather than
to
be sitting here reading them all out.
staff and authorize staff to make those changes and the ordinance passes. With the type, with the changes. in the plan. You have, I'll send to this list.
It's four, but, yeah. But they're, they're in buried in, you want me to read them all? Because it was just, I was just thinking it'd be easy just to go, hey staff, here's my list.
Okay.
they're just typos, not substance change.
Yeah, this time.
I second his motion.
Yeah, that was it. All right, so the amendment to the motion is to submit a list of typos to staff. Those
Actually,
being
you want to
incorporated-
just send them, I'm so sorry, it's not over you. would it make sense to send them to me and then I send the final document to them, so they're not getting two different things and having to put them together?
Good luck.
Fine.
So I'm going to amend my amendment.
You just draw and make a new one. Because then we have to.
Yeah,
draw
just,
one.
yeah,
So we
sorry.
draw my amendment, and my amendment is to send my typos to Councilmember Hines. She makes those corrections and sends that final document to this staff once we, and that will be the approved document.
All right, so we will vote in a minute.
Councilmember Joe Turbo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Laurel Brown,
Aye.
Councilmember Chris Grummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley.
Aye.
All right, the amendment passes. We'll vote on the main motion to approve the social media policy.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Turbo,
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Laurel Brown, Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimously. We have a social media policy. Item number 11, we're going to readdress, we talked about it a little bit before, but it's discuss and take appropriate action on a recommendation from the Platinum Roads panel. The council authorized state freeze to begin the assessment of the drainage issues. If you would take that one. Thanks for them.
I would like to make a motion that council approve the Platinum panel's recommendation to authorize Cape Freeze to take the first step toward completion of the project under the SLFRF award, the result drainage at the intersection of Westwood Drive and Brook Hollow, and its funds permit second location.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Brown.
If I
Yeah, we
may-
had a good meeting with them.
Yeah, if I may, we had a meeting, last week, we had this week, we had a meeting earlier this week, with Cape Freeze preliminary discussion of, options to the, location of Westwood and Brook Hollow. And, also they needed some clarification from us on timelines, funding, regulations, limitations that may be placed on the project through the federal regulations. It was a very productive meeting with input from members of the Platinum panel. And, I think that, we're ready to move, with the next step, which would be for them to provide us with, an assessment, a complete total assessment of the project, as well as the costs, estimated costs, both for the project itself and also for their services. And eventually, they will be assisting us also in the development of the request proposals for the, for the work, for the actual work.
My question.
Please go ahead.
So is the amount to be, that they can spend on those dictated sort of by the grant itself already?
Yes.
Okay. And then I noticed you said if there's additional funds, you'll cover that second location, Jack Miller. I guess they can't go ahead and start the assessment of that. Is that part of this?
Yes, this is one of the things that, they mentioned, that was mentioned in the meeting that was very, very good to hear, is very ballpark estimate of what needs to be done at Brook Hollow and Westwood is below the funds that are available to us through the SLFRF award. So that is, if that, once we get the detail assessment, if that comes through, we may have funds for a second location.
Well, so my request is adjust this motion to include directing them to go ahead and do the estimates for Jack Miller as well, so that we have both. And then the project funds will cover one project, but then we have both of those sections estimated, planned, ready to move forward, so that other funds You know what I mean? And then we can compare too, because it seems that,
That's a good idea. Maybe we can word it where, that they do the assessment for Brook Hollow and Westwood. And if the assessment is below funds available, then proceed with the second location, that should be Jackson.
I second.
We do that?
and then my only other question while we're still in discussion, and I hate this one because it implies that you're leaving, which you are, because you decided not to run again. Have you, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about it, makes me sad, but, have you considered a final report of your work and also who, I mean, to me, it seems like when they have kind of a national to take over on this, but has anybody like volunteered to start you're gonna stay on and manage the project for us?
Disappointed.
Councilman Farmer already sent me a letter today, asking about that. What I've said to him before the meeting is that I do not want to chair the panel. I think we have we have two highly qualified individuals who are in the business. They know what they're doing. And they are too busy to be chairs. But I have asked in the meeting of the platform next week that we discuss our future. We discuss Linnea leaving and who should become the chair. I will continue to work with the panel, but not as the chair.
But you're gonna apply to be like a member and hopefully appointed.
I have an idea. I mean, I don't want to say, I think that Mr. Joe Green and Mr. Chloe Abney are both outstanding. We're very fortunate to have them. Neither one of them was the chair because of their personal and family obligations, but we have other qualified individuals who can chair. And it's, and I will have.
Okay.
We have that on tape. Just saying.
It's gonna be in that recap.
Right. All right, so the amendment is to take a look at what the initial costs were, because they were kind of, the original numbers were between $200,000 and $300,000, which is a broad range. And they weren't sure, depending on what materials are decided on and when they get their sleeves rolled up and get into it, just what that's going to be. But I think that's a good idea that the amendment take on Jack Miller, if we know that there's going to be some fun, even if
they can't cover it all, we might as well use that to get that.
right.
So we
I
can
think
get
that's
work.
a good amendment. We'll vote on the amendment.
Putting on the amendment, Councilmember Chris Crummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Sarver,
Aye.
Councilmember Brent Foley,
Right.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun.
Aye.
All right. That's unanimously by ayes, no nays. And we will vote on the main motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun,
Aye.
Councilmember Chris Crummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Sarver,
Aye.
Councilmember Brent Foley.
All right. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you very much. Item number 12, discuss and take appropriate action on the formation of the membership of the HOT committee. Councilmember Brewer.
I move to direct staff to create a HOT committee application form. So I'm gonna have 4 separate motions because it's easier to break them down this way. So my first motion is, I move to direct staff to create a HOT committee application form, post it on the city website, place a call for membership in the newspaper, send a city email asking for people to apply. That's the first motion.
I second that.
And second by Mayor Pro Tem LeBrun.
Have we already posted the ad? We've already asked them to do it.
We don't have an application in process before.
That's what I'm saying. So you don't need to post the ad part because that's already been directed to do that. It doesn't have to be, I'm just saying, right, have you already done it?
Because we don't have an application, so it would be,
We just posted, we said post a call for interest to join.
I'm just.
Okay.
Crossing all the T's and putting all the dots.
All right, it's easy enough. If we can, vote on this first one. This is-
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Pisarro,
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun,
Aye.
Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Anyway,
Number two.
next motion. I move to have the mayor make a recommendation for the chair and vice chair positions from the pool of applications.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I'm not
Yeah, please.
understanding.
Wasted it,
I move to have the mayor make the recommendations for the chair.
I'm more trying to figure out where you can ask your question.
Yeah.
Than discuss from and do with,
I move to create the paid position to manage. No, I'm going to stop.
Okay, so my question, on this is, can non-lodging owner businesses participate? We haven't really discussed that, but tourism benefits and involves more than just lodging operations.
so. Man. You know, one of the groups that I was considering would be the golf course who does not have current lodging, but it might be part of their future. So, I mean, that is an example of them, if they apply, that I would seriously consider, you know, trying to get on this group. And they're not lodging owners. You know, the camp is, you know, they do lodging, but not co-living.
Yeah, and since they're a nonprofit, they're actually exempt from this. I'm not saying they shouldn't have employees, but
Yeah.
they're exempt from the town. So my next question, I mean, I just think involving more of the businesses that would benefit from the tourism could be a good perspective for the lodging owners at this point, to hear that voice of like how it can benefit the greater community beyond, you know, the impact to just lodging owners. So my next question, you guys addressed the ad being posted. My concern is the size of this committee. When we first talked about it and approved it, I was like, yeah, matches everything else. Then I realized the magnitude of people who might be interested in this. So I don't really know how to structure this or suggest this, but I feel like a function of this committee would be to hold regular workshops of a much larger group of people. Like you only have your 5 voting members, but I feel like 4 voting members, 6, 7, but either way, like that's a very small group when you're talking about 60 different lodging operations that might want to be involved in grappling for a voice. So I feel like the structure of these meetings should look something like a workshop and involve, you know, like just be different than our standard board practice that we have. So I'm not saying avoid the open meetings portion, but somehow we need to make sure there's an inclusivity beyond just that committee at times, is my suggestion. And the question is sort of like, what are we gonna do to address that liaison? The next one.
Could I just that specific part of it? The ordinance is actually written specifically to remove the word citizen so that it's a broader, you know, you don't have to be a Liberty resident to be on this committee, as well as it's also written that it's not a very strict open meeting qualification. It's like you try, but so it keeps all that room that you just described. It's already, the ordinance is written in such a way that allows that room that there may be 7 people sitting in a meeting somewhere, but there's all these other people and it can be much more free flowing. So I hear your concern, it is there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that. I just was kind of highlighting the idea of like, you need to address the structure of how it's going to be achieved. The next thing, I would like to make some motions as well. I would like to move that we put together an initial packet for them. And that includes that CML document that I shared with everyone that goes into greater detail about the usage. Because I learned something in that document that you can't see on the surface level. I was actually also wondering about more than one liaison for. I was going to recommend Mr. Foley because he has experience.
No, I don't want to do it. Thanks.
Okay. So my motion then is to make an initial packet and include that CML document.
That's fine.
Okay. So do we want to vote on that?
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun.
Aye.
Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe DeCarlo.
Aye.
Councilmember Brett Foley.
All right.
Yeah, to the liaison, this is something that, staff is going to be very involved with as well and serving in.
My question is also, should the liaison begin contacting businesses and compiling a list of lodging owners impacted and kind of soliciting that participation? Or should staff, because we kind of directed staff to do it initially. I just wonder, especially given the liaison being a mayor, if it wouldn't be more appropriately driven. Sorry. Okay, no problem. All right. I would like to move that we consider Lindsay Hasty as a member. She's expressed significant interest and concern over this.
I've already told her she can be.
Great. We have to. And then Nancy Bridger. Yeah. I'm gonna ask her to apply. I'm just saying, I'm considering that my appointment be Lindsay Hasty. Also, Nancy Bridger has expressed interest to me directly about joining because she has a lot of knowledge in the area. And so I'm just kind of throwing that out there. We're soliciting applications for involvement. She has a lot of experience. She seems eager to get involved. And then my only other comment, now release the microphone. About this item in particular, I have been asked many times now about why is this coming up again? And I feel like we might have addressed it, maybe not clearly, so I just kind of want to run through that back just real quick. So the hot tax came back up because Wimberley passed it, right? Wimberley now has one. We are out of line with the Greater Valley on that. So my personal concern is that we are inadvertently encouraging lodging operations, specifically short-term rentals in our city and ETJ. The fiscal group and the comp plan was actually where this kind of first got its ball rolling. That had several members in it. City Manager Brent Lewis,
Commissioner Paul.
yeah, Thomas Paul was on it. I believe maybe even Bill Tarwater and Jerry Morris at one point. So that's where that seed began, because they were looking at funding projects in general. Then it went to the comp plan as a whole and received support there. Then it went to the city council, in our first, so this is now the third meeting we've talked about it. Councilmember Grummer just presented it as an item as checking off the things on the comp plan, and council as a whole expressed support with moving forward. So essentially, Councilmember Grummer got the idea of moving forward with the ordinance. In the next meeting, it was, whoa, pump the brakes on the ordinance, you're not ready for this yet, let's move forward with the committee first to start kind of discussing it in a broader group of people than just us, which we all agree was the right way to go. So I just wanted to give that history for anyone who's concerned or just now chiming in. They didn't get all those meetings, to back up the understanding on this item in general.
And just to piggyback on that, this item is because it's basically the following of the previous item, which is we have created this committee. Well, in order to create this committee, we have to start doing, this, that, and this. So that's why this item is.
Do you have a comment?
I did. I was going to ask for clarification on the motion because Councilmember Deborah Hines began by saying she wanted a motion to consider Lindsay Hasty as a member of the tax committee and then said that Nancy Brittner showed interest in it and then went into the back and where.
Well, he said they had to apply first.
Yeah.
And so I just, yeah, essentially I'm letting everyone know I'm considering appointing her, because she's been very active. Obviously, I think we should contract some more people, and availability is always a big concern if people can't regularly attend meetings, then it's a whole thing, so.
Yeah, so there's no motion on the floor, it's discussion. All right.
Are you still open for discussion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is, I'm gonna put Mr. Rule on the spot. Looking about the hot tax, I did a little bit of research on cities nearby in the Rio Valley, and you do have a hot tax. And what I saw there is that you have an agreement, the city of Leon Valley, not you, the city of Leon Valley has an agreement with Bear County, and they are doing the collection of the hot tax. That's what we said. How do, you know, tell us a little bit. Well, we have somebody here with experience in that area.
Right. Currently, the city collects the hot tax. It's just given to the city by the owner of the property. They just send to us on a monthly basis. We kind of, we check and make sure that there are 2 hotels in Leon Valley. So we make sure that those pay. The Airbnb and the VBRO and all the other ones, that's a little harder to keep track of because there is no registration or anything like that they have to do. So it is kind of on the honor basis how you do it. But the city is the actual, or the city actually collects the hot tax every quarter from that property owner.
Okay, and then I have a question for you. Does the city of Leon Valley, because you can use the proceeds, you can use a part of those proceeds to pay for an administrator, for somebody to administer?
Mm-hmm. No, the finance department does it. Really, it's just for the hot tax, it's the collection of the hot tax on a quarterly basis. There's a form that goes on the website and also to the controller that's done once a year that reports the hot tax that you receive and how you spend that money. It's really the only 2 requirements for the administration of the hot tax. And so we handle all of that in-house.
Okay, well, I saw that, I went on and I did see that, I didn't know how many you had BMBs or short-term rental, but I just see you had to know there.
Right, we received probably 6 or 7 total receipts every quarter from the hotels in the city and a couple B&Bs or Airbnbs, whatever you want to call them.
And I mean, I hate to go back to the public comment that was made, but in that CML document, what I learned is essentially where it says transportation methods, that was really vague in all the first documents. So what that's talking about is specifically like buses to events.
Right.
So we couldn't necessarily improve walking trails for the road to, let's say, Cypress Falls, which is what I was sort of hoping when it said transportation methods, right? What it could still be used for is like the Hayes County Walking Trail Project because of the tourist destination. And yes, it could still be used to parks if they are tourist destinations. So if we wanted one of the parks listed specifically, like, oh, check out the park, we'd put Nampa Park Parks page on the website. So it is, you do have to primarily focus on tourism. And I don't negate the concept of maybe our citizens should decide whether or not tourism is a benefit to us. But what I can say is tourism benefits our golf course, and the golf course provides us fun. Tourism benefits our liquor store, and the liquor store provides the city funds. So it is kind of like a cyclical, back scratching method of using funds. What I specifically like about this concept is it matches, everything I've read on city financing talks about the importance of economic muscle, which is the city being able to draw funds from outside the city and keep them in the community. And this is one of the first things that I've seen that would actually allow Wood Creek to do that without us blowing up building and development.
And if you think about it, particularly in the summer, you have, speaking specifically of the lodge, you have a lot of business that comes into the lodge for weddings, destination weddings, people staying in there, people, and those, that village, those townhomes, many of them are being used as, by the owners as short-term rentals. And they're coming to Wood Creek, driving to Wood Creek Drive, they're already coming into our city to get there. They are in an ETJ, and we are not, I hate to say, I'm not one of those, big money, looking at the money, I'm looking at the benefits for our city of properties in our ETJ. The largest one, Messina Inn is another one, they're doing significant business. And why not?
And we Google estimated, it looks like we have probably about 60 short-term rental operations in the ETJ. So I think things have really changed from when this was first looked at too, as far as the popularity of alternative lodging. And if we have a regulatory process in place for registration of short-term rentals to promote safety, specifically fire safety is a big concern with them, then there is that automatic process of, oh, and also you need to be paying these taxes. You can also, if we're talking about using funds, which you kind of started your fourth motion, and I heard enough of it to wonder about it, but could funds from this collection also pay for that job, right? Because the committee shouldn't necessarily be that regulatory agency of policing this stuff. So we do have like a job, I use the word job, right? It's the thing you need to be paid for here to kind of track businesses are registered, that they are paying, and then that plan of how the money is spent.
I will go ahead and make that motion. Just to bring it back to discussion. I move to create a paid position to manage the hot fund program out of the hot funds received.
I second.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Hines.
So this motion, you did hear it correctly, even though I'm trying to get it in myself. What you just described was this motion.
I'm uncomfortable with this.
I pulled it back because I didn't think you were dead.
I don't think we are either. I mean, we don't establish, and we're creating a position to be paid from funds that we don't have.
Yeah.
I think that when the time comes and it's a legitimate use of the funds, we do that, but I'm a little uncomfortable with doing it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make a motion so we can have this.
I definitely feel that if we do move forward with it, at the end of the 90 days or whatever, that would be necessary. And not under the hot committee. The reason why I'm discussing it is because we're talking about the hot committee and what they should and shouldn't be doing, what the liaison should and shouldn't be doing yet, what we want staff to start doing. So it's important that we clarify that is the next step to go for.
Because I don't want to add more work, and he knows that very clearly, I guess, based on his previous experience of like, wow, this is a whole job, it's awesome. And I can see this position being a full-time position. It could be,
It could be a staff member who wanted to take on the extra hours and just build a separate.
but, yeah, I'm just letting myself, or letting the council know that I would be the beginning on this.
You just withdraw it?
No, because I'm taking away everyone else's power by withdrawing.
I knew that you withdraw it. Because it's not done yet based on the point that Mayor offered.
We can just shoot it down.
We had a motion in a second anyway.
We don't take a second to vote.
So the second would be considered to be the.
Whatever. Councilmember Hines, second.
Councilmember Chris Grummer,
Okay?
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Nay.
Councilmember Joe Pitarva, Councilmember Brett Foley,
No,
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun.
Okay, so it's unanimous. So 5, no ayes, the motion is defeated. But not dead.
Mayor, if I may, I would like to continue with the discussion on, I have this, and it's just an idea, and it's, of course, I want the community to make, to explore these, all the different possibilities, as well as allow, there's this idea of different groups in our city, outside of our city, can apply for the hot funds. And the committee itself, that's why we're bringing up this, would be the first like review of applications, and they go, hey, these are the applications that we think are really good for the hot use of the hot tax, and they send them as a recommendation to council, and council goes forward. I always thought this would be a great idea. Tiger Woods is doing demonstration tournaments, or that hot funds would absolutely happen. If the golf course, we're going to have these international golfers, and unfortunately, I know Tiger Woods is kind of my limit of knowing international golfers other than Jeff Nicholson.
Nichols.
Jack.
Nichols.
Nicholson, sorry.
Isn't it Nicholson? There's two Jack Nicholsons?
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, all those golfers. But it's, that would fit with the concepts, which is people would travel to come to see that tournament. And I'm really proud to go, hey, Tiger Woods was at our golf course. So I'm just going to say there are definitely possibilities in there, like the arts, as well as in Britain, there are many possibilities for this. I understand some of the lodgers might have pushback.
They also get business permits.
Yeah, and
So, I mean, in your scenario, where Tiger Woods coming into the demonstration, people have to come here and stay. So they're getting business, because something's happening over the golf course. And the golf course, can't house them, so they've got to stay somewhere. So I don't think there's any question that there are things that can be legitimately requesting, hot funds. The committee's got some work.
and it's a pass-through tax. We keep talking about that. It's not the lodge owner's paying it. It is just like the state tax that's already collected on their room.
Do we currently have a motion on?
No.
Thank you.
And if I can, I'd like to move along. Page 20, several items. Item number 13, discuss and take appropriate action on increasing the budget for the park beautification project. Councilmember Hines?
Yeah, so I would like to ask council to approve an increase in their budget to $5,000 based on the requests and additional meetings that we had.
Second. Seconded by Councilmember Foley.
Essentially, in your packet, you see the survey on page 42. These were the items that they wanted to have happen on that little green space. This is a beautification project for the city. We originally allocated, I believe, about $1,500 for it. In talking to them, it became clear that the scope of work desired was more significant. The primary ones being the tree care that is potentially needed, meaning moving a tree that is planted too close to another tree, and then crown root excavation, because there is mounding around some of the trees because they were not planted deeply enough probably, or soil or something was mounded around them, and that needs to be brought out. That can impact the tree health long term. So those were the big budget items that they're requesting, that we are asking for the money, and then also the parking spaces that they're planning, the designated parking spaces I anticipate to be larger. Just to outline the process on this, essentially, their survey ends this week, the final design and plan will be outlined, and then all of that work will be submitted to them to look at, make suggestions. The final plan will come before council before any money is spent or authorized to be spent, and then there will also have to be final bids. So this ask is not, we're gonna spend $5,000 and see, this is just to allow us to plan better, because if we're not authorized for the money, then we need to significantly alter the plan moving forward.
I would like to address this. Okay. My first question would be, I do not agree, and I do not believe that there should be any signs that says this is Farmview Village. We are the city of Wood Creek. We have to, you know, whether you live in Little Oak, of course, you live in Brook Meadow. I mean, am I going to go, maybe I would like a sign that says the Wilson Circle Village. I don't think this is, they're setting themselves apart from the city. I disagree.
Actually, they shut down. They shut down the concept of that.
Okay, that I disagree. Also,
They're voting on it.
I know.
One person wants it, so it made it on the list.
I also want to ask the question. Once you beautify this and you have park benches, it's going to be open to any resident of the city that wants to grab a bag, a lunch bag, and sit at the concrete table and eat. There, you know, I used to walk that way, or maybe I would like to stop there. And is the residents going to accept this? Or
Yeah, they wanted a community meeting space, and I don't think they mean exclusively. I mean, it's listed as a green space already, that's how we're able to improve it, it's already on the website, as a green space for visiting.
I hope there's a clear understanding that this is not the use of this group only. And that anyone in the city can go there, use the little library, sit and feed, have a glass of water, a sandwich, whatever.
I got the sense that that's what they want. They want a community space.
I think that,
Well, I don't, negative energy
just
from
want
the
to make
back
clear.
to limit our possibilities.
My last question is, why isn't this on the scope of parks? If we're going to make this, why isn't the park, why are we not
So
letting parks deal with it?
this item originated last spring. It's a green space improvement, which doesn't technically fall under park responsibility. Also, in the past, the message was essentially, we're not taking on these projects. I've been the project leader with Mayor Roscoe for this. We've been working with the residents for months now on it. That's why it's not under parks, because parks deals with parks. This is not a park space, it's a green space, so that's why.
So then, I think that,
Yeah, let me be clear. Council has already authorized this project, and the budget right now is $1,500. So the discussion right now is not to scrap the project, because the citizens have already been told improvements are going to be happening. But it's, do we want to increase the budget to allow more of what they want? In regards to the sign, that's not highly rated currently. If that changes, then we'll deal with that. But cities are collections of neighborhoods. City of Wood Creek claims to be a city, operates as a city. I think it's very clear that we have neighborhoods. I don't think it's crazy for them to want to designate and feel special and have autonomy and authority of their space. Cypress Point does it, Enclave does it, the other HOA
they
spots.
have HOAs and they pay fees and in addition to paying taxes, that's why. I mean, Enclave, they have an HOA, Cypress has an HOA, and, so does, the overlook. So the citizens in those areas are paying a monthly fee for the maintenance of the swimming pool, for green spaces, for things like that.
And if they wanted to sign, maybe they could pay for it. I'm just saying that I don't want to discourage areas of our city from getting together and having community to do themselves. In fact, you, in the past, have talked about how you missed that on Wilson Circle. And so maybe if Wilson Circle was encouraged to see themselves as a neighborhood in some manner.
We see ourselves, we're neighbors, we help each other, we get together, but we do it as neighbors. We take care of each other because we know this is of the 3 loops. We know who's there, and we have an unusual number of single older individuals living in those loops, so we take care of it. When we brought this for $1,500, I was with $5,000, and there is an ongoing maintenance. This is a high. We have so many other needs in the city. I think that green area has seen good times and bad times. I think that make it nice, but $5,000.
I'm getting confused now. I'm not quite sure what part of the is. The same to neighborhood,
Yeah.
Is there leadership to it? Is it?
They have a lot of turnover in their houses as of recent. They have more long-term owners than they previously had. They also have families with children now, which is a little bit newer for them. They dynamically showed up for this meeting and had a voice collectively, and they expressed, first off, relief that the city seemed really engaged and listening to them and wanting to help with this pretty awesome little space, actually. And they have some big dreams for it. $5,000 is a larger ask. It's an increase of twice what we've already allocated them, so 75% increase. The reason for the increase specifically is the requested tree work is anticipated to be a little bit expensive. Obviously, we could work on the bids to bring that down. This is an up to expenditure. This isn't a blank check. And they also are wanting a picnic table. That could be kind of pricey, about $1,000 itself. And then the other concern is establishing clear parking areas and not parking areas. So those are the big financial asks that once it became clear what this space was needing, it was like $1,500 will get them something. $5,000 is more likely to get the space up to one kind of a lack of maintenance, meaning right now some of the big maintenance problems they have are because there are vehicles parking all over the place and nothing's really designated. So by creating designated parking there for them, that alleviates that issue. The smaller asks they're wanting are like planters and designated planting areas, and they express wanting to take on maintenance for this area. And in fact, they have been trying to do that for years. A lock was put on their water faucet. We discussed why, the reasoning behind that. They understand that if somebody was maintaining it, they would need to be registered with the city to go and have authorization to undo that lock. In our green space ordinance, we actually set up the process for ownership of areas and encouraging citizens to start taking ownership of these areas and maintaining them and making them theirs, like little community garden projects. The little library, there's nothing to say the city is paying for all of this. It's just that this is what they're asking for. If we come back and say, this is what we can afford, these are your bids, would y'all contribute anything? I think they're going to be on board, but what they are most concerned about right now is the amount of money that they've already invested in this space and that the city's torn up. So the protection of it being a green space is the first time they've had any real authority to improve this space with the guarantee that a city manager or a council is not going to come in and strike them down.
I do want to mention, you said I'm the historian for the city, so this is my last meeting, so I'm going to take the privilege there. This group, this little enclave of homes was separate when the resort was created, they were separate. I have worked with them in the past. Several years ago, when I was first new to council, that RV area, they owned the street. That street was not owned by the city, it was a private property. We did surveys, and then the city took on the ownership of the street as well as the maintenance. They have had issues with that small strip of green space. And I know the area well. When I was able to walk my dogs, that was an unusual fact. And they have had, with one of the issues that happened with their turnover, there have been conflicts, and I participated in a solution among the residents because there were people parking on the green areas. There was some vandalism and some destruction of the planters, and so they have had hard times with that area and wanted to make it better. One of the residents there is a landscape architect, and she can help. She's done her place is very beautiful. I think that we can help them, and in the same spirit that we're a scientific golf course, we will do this for you, you help. And the reason that they put a lock, and I did not agree or disagree with the lock, is people were washing their cars. And the city water bill was high.
It makes sense to
So,
regulate.
I mean, I just want to say there is a history, and we have worked with them in the past. I have worked with them in the past. I got to work with the street. They have, and it's a nice area, but $5,000. I say, let's do 1,500, and they can contribute. Whether it be donation plans, using labor.
One of the issues that I have surveyed this property and met with the homeowners, and one of the reasons why 1,500 is done, I mean, we thought $1,500 would cover, helping with some planting and just sort of sprucing the place up. But they have severe damage, based on partly, a lot of this is as much public safety as beautification. We need to put in parking space stuff, and there's no place for people to park. There's no places for, the FedEx truck to go. I mean, they can't, there's, in that area, they can't meet our ordinance that says all four wheels off the pavement. So there's no way they can do that unless they park in the green space. And the way they've been doing it is damaging the trees, and hurting, our canopy. To do it right, we're gonna have to put in parking spaces, that are permeable, but that also protect the space. There's a few keys, but that's not gonna be true. I know that the city secretary has been looking at, ground stabilization systems, and it's like, it's like when you do all that and you create, ADA compliant, parking spaces, you're not gonna do that for $1,500. And that's one of the reasons that we felt like the number had to go up.
I know the challenges they have. You cannot park on our streets. You cannot park on the older neighborhoods in Hillcrest. You cannot park and have all four wheels off the pavement. I mean, that's why where I live, we have people parking, creating little parking spaces in front of the houses. I mean, that's okay. I just think that.
Councilmember Brummer, and then Councilmember Hyman.
I want to give a little context. So, Brook Meadow recently had a planter built because they had to adjust that particular green space. That was $3,000 to $4,000 just for that planter. And then, and we did,
We didn't work.
It didn't work. And that's what the citizens, when I was there, they were like, you just give us the big structure. We'll do all of the rest. And I think that's often what happens is, then there becomes a sense of pride and it just builds and grows. Also, this is the second of 4 of the median islands in the city. We did for Plano, the green space ordinance is kind of written in the beautification project, it's written that we're just going through and ticking the boxes. Basically, I wanted to give the context that Brook Meadow was $3,000 to $4,000 for that And this is a much bigger space, we're talking parking. So, I support this.
Can the city do all the things that you were indicating that they need over the project? And if we do it directly without going through some group, it's not a little group, it's not a legal entity or anything, are they?
No, they're not.
Are they gonna decide how to spend the city money, in other words?
They, at one time, in fact, if you look at those houses, at one time, those houses were designed to be like vacation homes, weekend homes. And eventually, when the resort went belly up, they got purchased and people lived there. It was never, it's very tight space. It's a very tight space.
I would feel a lot more comfortable if we took these neighborhoods that emerge on their own and then make pretty strong recommendations, if not demands on the city. We have a mechanism in our ordinances to establish them, give them some identity. I mean, Brook Meadow, I don't know what that is. We went through a lot of talk and work with them the last few years, but it's still an informal collection of residents, right? And we're doing a lot of serious talk and decision making for a group that you're telling me is pretty fluid, pretty permeable, changeable.
No, these people own these homes, they live there, they're typical renters, but they're pretty established. They've been there a while now, there's a couple newer people. I mean, it's funny because on one hand, we're establishing a historical precedent for them being their own neighborhood, and then at the same time of trying to take that away from them in this discussion. Again, I'll go back to the point that cities have neighborhoods. These neighborhoods often have signs. They often have gatherings, even without HOAs. I lived in one in Austin that was like this. We had a park that we could do events at, and we used at leisure, and there was no HOA, and we had a sign. But anyway, my point that I was wanting to talk about was this year we spent $1,300 total on green space maintenance. For the projected 22-23 year, we have $6,000 allocated. So even if they spent all of this $5,000, if council approves it, that would still leave us $1,000 of our maintenance, which is the expenditure of last year. The reason why we increased this item is for these projects with the concept that next year we would have another beautification project that would go on that year's budget. And the reason why fall, it's either spring or fall. What happens though is what happened this year, spring is when it gets recommended. By the time the momentum gets going, it's fall, and fall is actually a really good time to do this kind of stuff. Temperature, planting, all of that makes sense in the fall. And then we set up the structure for them to run with it in the spring.
I'd like to real quickly address the neighborhood question. And then I'd like to call the question, let's move on, it's getting late. We made a big effort like 2 years ago to establish separate to encourage neighborhood participation through the neighbor to neighbor program. If you'll remember, that was designed so that small blocks, of people in areas would bond together and form something of their own identity to help each other out. It's like y'all have done in loops. I went up and down Augusta Drive and solicited people, every home up and down Augusta Drive, and part of that was, okay, well, we'll be able to help you out in the next Snowmageddon, but we can also have, hot dogs and beer sometimes, and keep it close, get to know each other. So to disparage neighborhoods or say, well.
I'm not disparaging neighborhoods. I'm saying to call, neighborhoods are fine, but we have to be integrated within the city instead. And that's what I'm saying. When we do this, there has to be an understanding that it's available to any resident of the city. Anybody can go there and use green space if they want. Not misuse it, not have their dog go there, do their business on the green space. People, but they want to sit down. That's what I'm saying. This is villages of this, villages of that. I think that neighborhoods are different. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to talk about something.
All I'm suggesting is that, I don't remember, I'm not familiar with this activity. 2 years ago, trying to set up, I wish there was a set of procedures how, for example, we could do that on, Champions.
Well, Bob Hammer,
Yeah.
who was just elected to the city council, was the one who was charged with carrying the neighbor to neighbor program forward. And so he's not back on. So I have a pretty good idea of what his first assignment is going to be. Pick up the kids up.
And it did work during the.
Okay, and we vote.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Viterbo,
I,
Councilmember Brett Foley,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora Ryan,
Nay.
Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, one person.
Yes. And the motion passed 4 ayes, 1 nay. We'll take a 8-minute recess. That's my style.
Yeah, it does.
I'm gonna ask that we go to item number 18, from police. I'm feeling a little,
Yeah,
may have had sorts, and go ahead and knock this out.
yeah, just a kind of mainly a report item more than anything. Last page of your package, there's a good summary there that kind of shows, the activity that we've had during the shifts by the off-duty Hays County Sheriff, deputies. If you'll notice, there was 116 stops for various reasons, as you can see. We're averaging, right at 5 or 6 stops for a 4-hour shift, and most of them are for speeding. And so that's good. I'm happy with it. I'm also wanting to listen to input in terms of what we could be doing better. If anyone has any input, would like to hear that. Anyone?
On this document, thank you very much for this document, because it actually shocked me. The one part that shocked me for some reason was stop signs. People just not stopping.
Yeah.
It's not in my thinking, so I was shocked that it is very common. People too speeding.
Yeah.
I'm curious, it's like, were they often the same person? Like, I've tried to pass. Is there a way?
If it's the same one, there'll be 2 exits in the spot.
Yeah, you can look at the longer report and get a breakdown of that, and sometimes it is too much multiple,
That's just one person.
yeah. Right. But, yeah, that is fine, and I mentioned to one of the policemen at one, deputies at one point that, let's focus on speeding, and, not to tell them what to do, but their response was if they run a stop sign, then they're probably speeding too, so, you get them one way or the other.
Can I ask a question? Based on your conversations with these officers, do they have recommendations?
That's a good question. I've not asked them that. I asked the liaison, and she hasn't really offered much in terms of, what we can be doing different. But I will do that next time that I meet with them, or whatever many people needs for them, asking for their feedback. That's a good idea.
You look forward?
Yes, sir.
I was just impressed with how much speeding's going on for all the talk of there's never speeding here.
Yeah.
Specifically the 35 mile and over is pretty alarming to me, because that'll kill somebody. So I'm glad they're making stops. My one question is, should we consider increasing this effort?
I was thinking that too, and that's, I would love it. I really would. One concern that I have though, sometimes it's hard getting, once a week spots filled. Sometimes we don't have anybody. So, I would like to have more. I just don't know, if we would be able to fill it, but it's in the back of my mind, because I think it's effective, and I'd like to see them out more. That would be, a decision the council would make, because we obviously need to, change our budget for that. But I still think about it.
I move that we ask Councilmember Foley to discuss with the different stakeholders, like the officers and stuff, to see if there would be a possibility of availability in spending.
Okay?
I second it. I think,
Second,
I
And
think it's that. I think the effort is, what you see here is a very small sample of what goes on the daily basis. And also what I saw, and I was standing in front of your house, particularly in the summer, when you have all the people that come to Route 3 Drive, those are not residents, it is very dangerous. They're going 10, 15 miles, they got over the speed limit. And that stop sign, that's just a challenge.
It's a suggestion.
It's a challenge. How many times can I go through and get away with it?
When can say I am seeing officers more and I am seeing them pull people over, which we did not have prior to this specific arrangement. And I'm really appreciative of that. And is this Vicky doing this, Alfred? Bill?
Vicky's into data.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's doing the data entry. She's
I
gonna be
appreciate
cool.
that and thank you as well.
Yeah, we should pass that on to her. I will say, one of the officers mentioned that, he monitors Waze, which is another, navigating, application, and, it comes up in Waze that, that he's out there. So he'll see it, and then, he'll say where he is, so he'll move to another place. So the word's getting out, but I'm with you. I wouldn't mind seeing more. So I'd be happy if the council so votes to, talk to, my contacts and see if it's possible to increase the coverage.
One comment I heard from officers is that most of the people running the stop sign are residents.
Really?
Yeah, residents, yes.
Yeah.
One thing that, speaking of traffic, speaking of speeding, in the last few weeks, I had a 8 o'clock physical therapy appointment, and I am absolutely shocked at the traffic and the congestion on Woodford Drive. The other day, you're probably walking, there was the house,
Yeah.
trying to get through because of the school and people going to work. It is a really, really, I feel for the people who have to do that on a daily basis, for the work to go to school.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's something, that there is no traffic assistance there from the council.
I think it's the buses. They clog it up for just a little bit, and if you hit that wrong time period, it gets clogged. Because there's a bus stop right up from Woodford Drive, and then they're all doing, like, I mean, that's what I've seen.
It takes me 25 minutes to get to.
Yeah, that's at Hayes County, they can provide traffic control for schools, but sometimes too.
They're not doing it.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor to ask if they can do it more time.
I'll second it.
It's already, yeah,
Councilmember Jake Sarva? Yay, nay?
to extend hours to the
To extend
officers,
Or to ask if
to ask if the officers would like to extend the frequency with which they patrol the city.
Then definitely, to move them.
He said aye.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Brett Foley?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun? Councilmember Chris Grummer?
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines?
That's unanimously, thank you.
Guys, I gotta go. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling very well, so I'm not much help. What's that?
bring your water with you.
Okay, I'll do that.
We still have several items, and I'm just asking, not that we suspend them, but that we are concise in our comments. Let's stick to the meat of the matter and try to get these things to votes. I'm not saying don't discuss, but we don't have to discuss at great length. All right, agreed? All right, item number 14, discuss and take appropriate action on allocation of resources for Oakville containment in Stonehouse Circle.
So I move that council consider proceeding with the first step of a plan to address Oak Wilt on Stonehouse Circle.
Seconded by Councilmember Farmer.
In your emails, I sent photos today of Stonehouse Circle. I did not share them in the packet on purpose because they're kind of sensitive, just like this. I'm not excluding them. They can apply for the Oakville Assistance Program. The reason why Stonehouse Circle was selected first is because we have neighbors, 2 of them, already actively seeking assistance from the city. And so the other focused project would be Wildwood. That would be 2 if this plan works, right? We don't know if this could even work yet.
Is drenching an option?
I don't want to get into all of that because the Texas A&M Forestry, I already explained all that for us. I'm not recommending, at this point, full tree removal is the only way to ensure you are killing it is to completely kill it. And we cannot save trees that have been infected. You can prolong their life. You can risk infecting others. That's what happens when you do that. Trenching is great in certain cases. An oak wilt specialist can make those recommendations.
I know that. At the end of the circle, you know, when you go in the circle, there's the Hackertons, I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Behind there, behind those houses that are on the golf course had some serious oak wilt issue in that area.
Yes, that is the epicenter of this current flare-up. Would be what corresponds with the Texas A&M forestry map and what I have confirmed visually myself.
You have.
Well, I just went out and you can see all the dead trees right there, and then the trees dying, coming out from it like a flare.
I have two friends on that street and I have seen it. And
It spreads like fire.
to be honest with you, I'm glad that we're going to start a project with the golf course because they have not been very responsive to that.
So,
Okay.
called a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to let y'all know that I have worked with, I had permission from a resident to enter her property so I could look at the back of an empty lot and take pictures. And I've already sent a letter to the owner of the empty lot for oak wilt and down trees.
Great.
And trees that are growing onto her property, and I never got a response. So I tried already for a non-occupied.
Yeah, that's
lot.
an empty lot. We're looking at houses on lots,
Yeah,
known owners. I'm not saying we can't contact the other people, but this is like taping, can we enter your property? You live here. A vacant lot, I mean, the city kind of has authority at this point to walk on that lot. Because we followed the measures needed.
But it's better if you
Call the question.
Yes, we vote, please.
okay.
The vote.
the motion is for city council to consider initiating the first step of the plan on Stonehouse Circle to contact the residents, asking them
For permission to enter their
give
lots
permission to enter the lot and look for oak wilt in the front yard.
and large scale oak wilt testing and identification from a specialist on that circle.
Mayor Pro Tem LeBrun,
Aye.
Councilmember Chris Grummer,
All right.
Councilmember Deborah Hines,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Picardo.
Aye.
That's unanimous, 4 ayes, no nays. Moving on to number 15, discuss and take appropriate action on the oak wilt assistance application.
I recommend that council approve the application as listed and consider sending this to the tree board to ask if they would like to participate in the approval application process.
A second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem LeBrun.
It's explanatory. We created the process. We need the application. Mayor Roscoe and I reviewed this, edited it. The only question I have a part of is whether or not the tree board should be dealing with private properties, if they feel comfortable with that, if they want to take it on or not. If not, it defaults to staff and Mr. Rule here, unless there's a code enforcement difference. Like I said, I already have no less than 4, now 5 residents seeking assistance through this program, and I expect it to spread if the city actually gets in action about it.
Okay, so we can ask tree board to put it on their agenda.
I think it makes sense that they should consider it.
I think you have.
Right of first refusal.
You have a typo on the
Always.
title. Replacement with an emission.
Why is it that the typo finder never works when you need it, but always finds the
Yeah, look
non-typo?
at that. How many times have I looked at this?
Both of us, and the computer's not finding it. so-
I proofread
Wow.
everything and then 2 days later I read it. Yes.
Yeah.
They
All right.
They survive.
Move this one forward, please.
Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Guatarba.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun.
Aye.
All right. Passes unanimously, 5-4 ayes, no nays. And on to number 16, discuss and take appropriate action on an update to the garage sales and sign regulation in our code.
I
Councilmember
move that
Hines.
council approve the garage sale and sign ordinance edits as in the packet.
Second by Councilmember Katarba.
So this is based on our last discussion. It involves all the edits that everyone suggested.
Yeah.
The only things I added, because I found them in other cities and I thought it was relevant, was the concept that a garage sale can only last sun up to sundown. That was not in there previously. And I think one other little stipulation, let's see. No, I think that was it. That was the only real like add-on. Oh, it shall be the duty of the persons conducting the garage sale to remove all accessories to the sale after its completion and restore the premise to the state and condition that existed prior to the sale. And the rain check policy, meaning if the event is rained out, that they can notify the city and they won't be, like it won't apply to their annual limit. We could even potentially extend their signage possibilities, but they have to notify the city immediately that it was rained out. So those were add-ons. The only points to point out was that I went through and found every place of the code that this touches, and they're all in this ordinance, and it's all edited. We will need a second motion essentially to direct staff to update the applications as well, because our current applications no longer fit these standards, and they should maybe even consider creating a separate garage sale for residents application since the fees are different.
I move to amend 156.060, garage yard sale signs, section C. There shall be no more than 4 sales.
So the compromise was 3 in the last meeting. And the citywide garage sale doesn't count, so that allows 4. See what I did there? I gave y'all both what you wanted.
I heard. And you did just speak, so therefore that was my second.
I'm fine with you suggesting the amendment. I don't necessarily think it's necessary because in the last meeting, the compromise was essentially 3. And with the citywide garage sale not counting, that allows 4.
I understand, but the citywide garage sales are strictly regulated as in the dates by the city, or the city governs those. Where if somebody has, like we discussed, oh, I just sold my house, so I had a garage sale before I left, and then I have one when I come in, new owner comes in, and they have one.
That doesn't count. It's per owner.
Correct? Now this new owner, starts off, they might need another garage sale, like the first one didn't sell everything. Well, okay, we do another one right there. Then they're already done. And then they have a
Fine.
whole.
Aren't they
year.
allowed 3?
Fine.
They're allowed 3.
I thought the number.
The old owner doesn't count.
Did I say, what did I do?
Numbers.
You have 2.
You have 2 on C.
Oh, okay. So the compromise last time was 3. I made the citywide one not count because I think Brent wanted to leave it at 2. You had suggested 4. So this allows 3 is what I was going to say.
I think that.
I think the concern is properties that are constantly having garage sales.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
For a year plus the citywide, that's 5 a year.
I think we're trying to legislate something that does not happen.
I know, that's why
We don't have people who typically do 4 garage sales a year or even 3 garage sales a year. And most don't do 1 garage sale a year. I think we're getting a little HOA here.
Well, that's why I'm increasing the number, not.
No, I don't, I disagree. I don't think we should be increasing the number.
I've been here, we had one resident who wanted continuous garage sales, and then the resident wanted to have a garage sale third weekend in a row. Former city manager Lewis had said if they did, we'd have to do a sales tax. That's right.
Well, okay, so getting back to the point of the ordinance, previously our sign fees were exorbitant, in my opinion, for a garage sale. So we might see an increase of requests. And I think 5 garage sales a year is gonna start pissing off your neighbors. I don't think we have the parking to warrant that. This allows 3. It's close to 4. I mean,
I think this is.
3,
All right,
including the
We'll call a
citywide
vote on
one.
the amendment, please. I know, but no, it's 2. It is 2 because the third one is the citywide. So that gives people 3 opportunities to sell their junk.
You also have to remember 3 months out of the year, it's not really great for selling. Either
Yeah.
it's
So
too
anyway,
hot
that
or
I
cold.
think we've let's just vote on the amendment, please, to move it up to 4.
I did.
Well, she did by speaking to the motion.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Nay.
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 Councilmember Joe Picardo. Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Nay.
Nay.
The motion fails. Keep that. And so we have main motion on the floor to adopt the ordinance.
Councilmember Joe Picardo.
Okay.
Are you approving the main motion?
Yes. You said yes. Aye. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, he
okay.
said nay, though.
Yeah, he said
Sounded
nay.
like nay.
That's the A, yes.
Nay.
Oh, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Aye. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
All right, thank you all. Number 17 is to discuss and take appropriate action on directing grant works to find possible grants to help the city of Wood Creek and its citizens with oak wilt mitigation. High on my list. Yes, please.
I move to direct grant works to find possible grants that could help the city regarding oak wilt mitigation.
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Hines.
Mayor, may I meant to have that, to have the possible matching element not exceed a certain figure.
Well, you made the motion and then you added to it. You didn't
Yeah, I
amend the
did. Well, I
motion.
made an amendment to it. Because I already got a second. But with my amendment.
I didn't hear you say, I'd like to amend the motion. Okay, I believe you.
I amend to have a possible matching grant element not to exceed X.
Put a number in there.
Do you have
Now what?
25% match, or do you want to have a dollar amount?
I'm thinking dollar amount.
Can I ask that they just go and see what's out there first?
That's
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
so that's why I did it in 2 different
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
We can just leave the first one, which is go ask, find
Yeah.
out, then they come back. to us.
Just
I was
have
just
to-
thinking that since we're discussing, I was thinking that if they go out for, and they found grants, and I've heard specifically with the parks grants and the grants that come in this area, they tend to be larger matches. So if they went and found a grant that's for 200,000 that could deal with oak wilt, and the matches, well, the city matches 100,000, is council interested? Where if they initially looked at it, grant works, and went, yep, council is interested in spending $100,000, we'll not give council this. And then we'll know what that's why I was thinking about giving council.
Don't, when you give them the direction, just have them do the research without specifying, and then they can come back and say, these are the options, and then you pick from there.
Why I made it in two separate motions. And the amendment didn't get a second to it. So we only have one motion on the table. I call for
Okay, so the motion is
it. Move to direct.
to
grant
just
work
move forward with grant work, see if there's anything out there. And then we'll make the determination on, you know, and frankly, you know, if you want an easy figure on that, we have a $15,000 budget for Oakville containment, so that would be a logical match. Up
not
to,
being moved to act.
right. I'm just throwing that in there.
Well, given the plan with the golf course, I think anything it should be discussed because that might be expensive. And so if we can pull grant money to match, you know, a $30,000 annual investment, we get another 30, you know, or 75%, or I just don't cap it yet.
All right, we'll call the question. Vote on the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Aurora LeBrun. Aye. Councilmember Chris Grummer.
Aye.
Councilmember Deborah Hines.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Katerba.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. No,
There's a report.
no. Councilmember Katarba has been waiting patiently all night to give the report on P&Z. You're the last item on the agenda, sir.
Reporting on two meetings. The first one was October 5th. It's incorrectly listed at the agenda as October 4th. The second meeting was on November 2nd. And, at the October 5th meeting, there's a number of different items covered in planning and zoning. And I'll mention briefly what the work of Deborah to kind of give us a quick explanation of one of them. First of all, the idea of taking appropriate action on the first draft of the short-term rental set of regulations and application documents was passed through with nothing. So the planning and zoning commission took on that task. There was a not quite related second issue on minimum.
That was my chair.
That was his
My chair.
On minimum lot size. Councilperson Hines, the ordinance committee.
Yeah, the council saw this item first. It popped around to comp plan, then ordinance review, made it to P&Z. It's supposed to come before council, essentially. The concept is that our code lacks lot sizes in the zoning, and it's supposed to have it. Brandon was from K-Freeze was the first person to bring that to our attention. Ordinance review made recommendations on minimum lot sizes based on averages here. P&Z sort of approved, didn't necessarily feel authorized about the lot sizes. So my recommendation, once it got to council, was just to have kind of just, you know, maybe give it to Brandon for a second and have him kind of look at it. But the comp plan, interestingly enough, and the feedback from the future land use actually confirmed what ordinance review sort of produced on their own. So it seems in line with what citizens want, of like about a third of an acre lot sizes average for future development, because that's what this does, guides future development.
The P&Z took this up and passed a unanimous motion increasing minimum lot size to 14,520 square feet, which would encompass another suggestion coming from council, I believe, for at least 12,000 square feet for water and sewer connection. So we just- the size of this activity. Again, there's a 3-0 vote by the planning and zoning commission to pass that along. And then another single item was taking action on recommendations to finalize the 2022 comprehensive plan. Draft version 5 was passed 3-0. Now, the meeting on November 2nd was focused specifically on short-term rentals. And Chairperson Davenport put together materials on that. We went through very quickly on that meeting, and I think we were very, very successful. The two okay. The first discussion and action on November 2nd had to deal with the proposed amendment to 156062 and 156064. And the changes made were additions more than anything substantive to the existing ordinances. And so that for all the districts, most of the districts, SF1, SF2, SF3, 4, no, not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The only addition made to all of those statements were short-term rentals are not allowed. Only change. What is different is SF4, single-family residences, one-family dwellings. And what is already there, short-term rentals allowed. I believe was there and was allowed to stay there. Okay? And then for we get all the way through. Okay, the short-term rentals will be allowed for 156064, multifamily requirements, 1 and 2 zones. Short-term rentals allowed. If I recall, the discussion was focused specifically on the apartments. And I think we ended to kick the can up a little bit on that in terms of finding out what the regulations are by management at the apartments for short-term rentals. Going along with that.
Isn't the concern there too that they have month-to-month leases and that those leases don't always follow the full 30 days? Yeah.
That was it. Well, I take that back. The Planning and Zoning Commission put together an ordinance, including all this material. I believe you've seen this ordinance. Cover the issue. So the question then becomes, where do we go from here? Do we pass this these decisions on to the attorney for review, or should it go to ordinance commission, or should it go right to the council? What's the next step? I'm going to ask council to revise
If I
this.
remember, I watched the meeting from online. I remember they actually did vote for it to go to ordinance review and the city attorney for review, but they
I sent it.
in order.
You know,
next.
at
Okay.
that meeting, I sent it to the city attorney.
Okay. I wanted to just make a comment. I read the documents as well, that I want Aurora to way back in planning and development.
Yeah.
When we addressed short-term rentals, if you look at that regulation
Yeah,
document,
finally.
it's very, very close
to what we did way back when. And
So-
I appreciate that that we're not reinventing the wheel and that there's a lot of this and that it's very common sense kind of idea.
So I think what Joe is getting at, because he and I talked a little bit before the meeting, was that there was a general, yes, they made the motions in that meeting, but again, since we have all these new boards, I think there's a general wishing for more direction as to the procedural flow of things, that everybody wants to be kindly respecting the other advisory boards' efforts, and then kind of just outlining the point of the liaison is just to kind of, if communication's not happening, check up on items and make sure they're getting where they're supposed to go, that the documents that council has sent us. So that was the idea, is sending it to OR, Ordinance Review Committee, and to the lawyer, the right call there. And before the meeting, I essentially said, that makes sense because council is in theory the last stop. We wouldn't send it backwards.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I'll pass that along. Wanted this clarification. Okay, and that was it for the meeting.
Thank you.
Meeting, and Chairperson Davenport runs a tight meeting, quick one.
He does.
We do a whole lot of
He does
extensive
run a good meeting. Yeah. All right, well, I will entertain a
It'll work
motion.
well.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move
And
that we
before
adjourn.
we adjourn, I would like to thank you, Joe, Dr. Joe, for coming up, stepping up and helping us when we had the vacancy. And I will miss you because you're my neighbor and I'll see you when I go by. Thank you. It's
And
been a
y'all aren't,
pleasure
you know, you
serving-
two aren't
it's been
off
a
the hook
pleasure
yet.
serving with you.
Yeah.
You two aren't off the hook yet. I mean, you're still on this council until somebody else is sworn in to replace you.
21 more days.
Try to find us.
Yeah.
At least, yes.
We have another
I'm on-
meeting.
Yeah. So,
Any questions about P and Z?
no, thank
No, you
you.
did great.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Joe. Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.
9:39.
Brett, are you still there?